Hello, second graders, and welcome to your final lesson for the week. We are working on skip counting in a performance task. Let's get started. Before we begin our performance task, I want to talk to you a little bit about skip counting and everything that we've done this week. I think it's important that you guys remember that skip counting means you are counting forward or backwards by a number other than 1. Skip counting also helps you look for patterns. You remember when we had our hundreds chart and we looked at all of the different patterns that were reflected as we learned? That's very important as well. I also want you to remember that skip counting helps you count collections of objects that can be grouped. Okay? Also, before we begin, I wanted to just discuss some of the vocabulary terms that we use for the week, such as forward, backward, even, odd, multiples, skip counting, twos, fives, tens, patterns, collections, groups, equal groups, and pairs. So as we work through our performance tasks today, please feel free to use that vocabulary when you are working through your problems. Let's go ahead and get started and take a look at our assignment for the day. Sorry about that. Joe was skip counting and said the number 60. What could Joe be skip counting by? And what number could he have started with? Explain your thinking using pictures, words, and symbols. All right, boys and girls, so I need you to press pause on this video so you can work through this problem. Once you are finished, come back and see me and we can solve the problem and we can work through the problem together. All right, good luck. All right, now it's time to get started and see what we have here. All right, so I want to show you the first way that I solved the problem. Of course, because we have been working with twos, fives, and tens, I decided to start with twos. So take a look at my visual here. And you can see that I did groups, equal groups of 2, all the way to 60. Now, the thing about doing this was I was able to put a number under each group so I can see how close I was to 60 as I drew my picture. The question also says, what number could he have started with? Well, it was kind of tough to start from 2 and get all the way to 60. There has to be an easier way. Well, let's think about patterns and what we talked about earlier this week. If I would have used my patterns, I could have started at 50. I could have started at 40, 30, any number, but I'm going to choose 50, and I'm going to explain why I chose 50. Because I know the pattern started at the top of my paper with 2. So I know that right after 50, my next number, counting by twos, is going to be 52. And then after that will be 54 because it follows the pattern of 2, 4, 6, 8. So me starting at 50 really helped me to see the pattern 50, 52, 54, 56, 58. Each 10 repeats the numbers 2, 4, 6, 8. And that's why I chose to start with the number 50. Even though I'm showing you I started with 2. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. Now this picture, I drew a picture of bunny ears. I know it looks kind of funny, but that's my rendition of bunny ears. Okay, and so now what I want you guys to do is look at how I did it differently. This time I didn't draw dots. I drew a picture to represent my twos. I know that bunnies have 2 ears, so I wanted to show that I knew of different objects that have collections of two. They have a collection of two or a pair of two. And again, I put numbers in each bunny so we could see all of the numbers that counted up to 60. All right. Did anybody else count by twos? Well, let's move on, because even though I counted by twos, I also counted by fives. So take a look at my tally marks. Each tally mark represents 5. And so I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. I counted up to 60 using fives. So that also could be an answer if you use fives. You didn't have to do twos, fives, and tens. I just wanted to show you that you can use any of the numbers we discussed today to solve this problem. And so with me counting by fives, I noticed that I could get really close to 60 if I said 55, 45, 35. Remember, again, it does not matter where you start. The patterns help, and also knowing how many numbers I'm skipping to get to the next number. And in this case, I'm skipping by fives. So again, I am going to start with the number 50. I know with my pattern that 5 numbers after 50 will give me 55. 5 numbers after 55 will give me 60. And hey, I made it to 60 without having to start at the number 5. Here's another picture. And this time I used a hand. And with the hand, it's the same thing, counting by fives. But this time I did not draw any numbers. I know that my total was 60. And so I know that the number before it is 55 and the number before that is 50. Again, I still probably would have started with 50 just to make it easier for me. Does it mean that you had to do it that way? No, you do it the way that works for you. All right, and lastly, I want to show you how to skip count by tens. I think this is probably the most simplest of all of the skip counting that we've done this week. So here we go. Here's my picture, and I just put numbers in a box to represent 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. But this one was a little different for me. I thought about what we did on Tuesday with counting backwards, and I decided to try to get to 60 by counting backwards. And so I started at 100, and I went from 100 to 90 to 80 to 70 to 60. That was super duper easy. So this one, I'm not going to say 50 because that would be really easy. 50, you're only 10 away from 60. I chose to start at 100 and work backwards to get to 60, especially since I want to practice counting backwards more often. My last picture is a number line, and this is another way to count, but this one is a little different too because I'm looking at the numbers surrounding 60. I see 50 here and I see 70 here. So technically, looking at my number line, I could have started with any of the surrounding numbers. But again, I like counting backwards. So I want to try to count backwards. 100, 90, 80, 70, 60. Good job, boys and girls, you did it. At the end of this video, I would like for you to use your Flipgrid QR code and share some ways with me that you solved this problem. I can't wait to hear from you. Have a great weekend. Bye. Use the camera from your parent's cell phone to scan the QR code below.